Hey there, it's Shauna. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for July 23rd. This week I've titled The Truth Will Set You Free, and I've titled it that because that is the first part of one of my favorite Gloria Steinem quotes. She said, "The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off." And so I find that a very appropriate sentiment for this week. We have a full moon total lunar eclipse, and there's a lot of themes around truth and freedom and what it is that's right. It's a very dynamic lunar eclipse. So I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you. And then as always, I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So let's start off with the big event itself. So we have a full moon total lunar eclipse, and so this is exact on Friday, July 27th at 1:20 p.m. Pacific time. It's exact at 4 degrees of Aquarius. So we have the moon at 4 degrees of Aquarius and then the sun opposite that, because it's a full moon, at 4 degrees of Leo. And so alrighty, first, let's break it down a little bit. Full moon is when the moon is full, completely illuminated. It's at maximum capacity. So there's this vibe of like feeling like everything is on display, like everything is maxed out. And then on top of that, we have this being a lunar eclipse, which in astrology, that means that it involves the north and south nodes. The north and south nodes in astrology symbolize karma. They symbolize rapid advancement and growth, and then also rapid letting go and processing of something that's been going on for a long period of time. So we see a lot of growth, and then we see a lot of endings as well. And so this can be literal situations, but it can also just be emotionally processing things. The other piece of this eclipse that is unique is that we also have Mars and Uranus closely in aspect. So we have Mars in Aquarius within just a few degrees of the eclipse. And so this is really, really important, because anytime that a planet is within a few degrees of the eclipse, the transiting planet, it infuses its energy, it infuses its archetypal symbology into this eclipse time. So Mars is the warrior, it's yang, it's about fighting for something. It's about going after something. And then Uranus is also within a few degrees square this eclipse. So that means Uranus is also squaring Mars. Uranus is about doing things differently. It's about breaking down the system, and not just changing the system or the process or the status quo in a little way. It's about changing everything dramatically. And so, this combination, like an eclipse already feels unstable because it's a time of change, of rapid change. And Mars and Uranus also are very much about change and about like feeling like a strong, Mars is about action. So it's about feeling like this strong pull to do something, to act and to change something. You may feel this week like your world is being turned upside down, whether that is, again, literal events or emotionally. It really depends on what's happening in your life, and it really depends on how these planets and this eclipse is transiting your personal chart, but also what's happening in your life. Like, where in your life is there a need for change? Where have you been wanting a change? Like, that's where I would really look, and that is how you can tune into this energy to look to where it's where there's a potential, where it's ripe to connect with. So as if that wasn't enough, we also have Mercury stationing retrograde this week. And this is really interesting because it's stationing retrograde in the sign of Leo. So it's unlike Mars, it's not going to go over the eclipse point. Mercury is stationing retrograde at 23 degrees of Leo. So it's farther away, but it's still significant because it's within the same sign as our eclipse cycle, our eclipse season. So it stations on July 26th. And then it's going to appear to move backward through the zodiac until August 19th. So August 19th, it will station direct at 11 degrees of Leo. So for my Leo and Aquarius people, this is definitely a time of change for you for sure, Leo, Aquarius, even Taurus and Scorpio people. But we're all going to be feeling the effects of this change. It's definitely, with the eclipse, a time of change. And then with Mercury retrograde, Mercury is about the mind, it's about thought process, and it's about communication. So when Mercury is retrograde, it goes retrograde about 3 or 4 times a year for about 3 weeks at a time. And so this is a time where we get to process the things that we've been planning, the things that we've been talking about. We get to reflect and to commune with ourselves. So I encourage you to think of it that way. Typically, Mercury retrograde is not a great time to start new things and new projects. I will tell you, I've done it though, and it's not that something bad will happen if you start a new thing. It's just that sometimes, because the energy is internalized, when you do something that is externalizing energy, there may be like, it may be more complicated, or there's something where you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So if you need to sign a new lease, if you need to move, if you need to start something new, don't delay, you know, follow your gut on what's right for you. But definitely know that this is a time of processing what it is that you've been planning and what it is that you've been thinking about over the past few months. And then a sweet aspect to end cap the week, we have Venus opposite Neptune, and then it'll also trine Pluto. So this is happening around the same day as the eclipse. And so Venus is about relationships. Neptune is about fantasy, illusion, magic, mysticism. And so I feel like, so whenever Venus comes into contact with outer planets like Neptune and Pluto, it's this time of really working with our unconscious patterns around relationships. And in different ways, like Neptune is the unconscious patterns in how it is that we look to others to define us, or how others project onto us. And then Pluto is about power in relationships. It's about power, sensuality, sexuality, guilt and resentment. And so I think it's very interesting that this aspect with Venus and Neptune and Pluto is happening around the time of the eclipse, because it's a time where we can, I feel, where we can rapidly process and feel these intense emotions, like feel this sense of, okay, where is it that you get your power, your own internal power in relationships? Where is it maybe that you allow other people to have power over you? Do you want to change that in some way? How do you view the people in your life? How do people view you? You know, how does that feel, and is there something that you want to change there? So, so definitely like a more intense week for sure. I have 3 tips for you to really make the most of this and to have the most meaningful experience, because even though it's intense, it is important and it's a very special time. Eclipses are always a sacred time. And so my tips are simple but important. They are to eat well, to rest well, and to exercise this week. And so you might be like, Shauna, that's like, I do that all the time, or like, can't you give me something more like prolific or something like that? No, because these are the things that we need to survive eclipse season. These are the things that we need, that I prescribe to my clients who are highly sensitive, who are highly empathic, and we explore all the different ways that we can do that. But for you, I would say this week, essential to make sure that your body is feeling good, and then that translates to your emotions and your mind feeling good too. So definitely eat very well, rest very well, get some exercise, because we have this Mars-Uranus energy. Exercise is really good, and I know if you've been watching me for a while, you've heard me say this before, that when there's a Mars aspect, we need to be moving our body because that channels the energy. And if you find yourself feeling agitated or feeling intense, maybe do a little movement, do a little walking, whatever it is that works for you. But definitely keep the focus this week on your body. Like, that's the biggest thing, because that's the most real and tangible tool that you have to affect everything else in your life, whether it's your emotions or your mind or your relationships, etc. Last thing that we'll do today is I will pull a card for us for this very special week. So this will be a card, because I feel like I talked a lot about the energy of this week, so this will be a card of guidance and inspiration for this week ahead. The practical things for us to focus on. And you know, by the time I publish this, I'm publishing this on Sunday, you may already be feeling the intensity of the eclipse, because we're fully in eclipse season. And if you want to know more about eclipses, you can go to, you can find, I did a Neo-Feminine TV episode about eclipses, like all about eclipses, and it broke down each of these eclipses. So if you want to geek out on it, definitely do that, because that can be helpful too, to understand like more personal influences. Okay. Oh, sweet. So I pulled the Knight of Cups. So this is a really sweet card. Okay, so let's break it down. So the Knight is like Mars energy, because the Knight is the warrior. They're like about fighting. They're about going after something. And what's interesting is this is the Knight of Cups. So cups are about emotion, relationships, how it is that we socially connect, but also very much about emotion, because the cup holds the water. Water is the element of emotion, emoting. And I did pull this reversed too. So I'm curious how, the way that, I'm curious what you think of when you think of this, but what I'm really drawn to in this card is the little river that he's crossing. And this makes me think of like, and look at how he's carrying the cup. Whenever I see a tarot card like this where someone is like bringing a cup, or like the Ace of Wands is like that, where there's like a hand bringing the wand, it's like there's a message that's coming. And then there's this journey over water, over this stream. So what I take this is there's emotional clarity, there's like an emotional message that is happening this week. And I think it's an internal process because it's reversed. So I take that as the energy being internalized. So I feel the cups is also very much related to intuition. So I feel like there's going to be some sort of emotional clarity that comes this week. And like the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. I think that's kind of how it goes this week, is that there's like this emotional intensity, and then the clarity and insight comes from that. Like when things break open and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's this feeling, and then the answer comes. That cup is presented. And again, I don't know, someone could say something that triggers that for you, but I do feel like this is more of an internal process. So that's what I have to say about that. I hope that you have enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend who you think would enjoy it as well. And if you want to connect with me more, you can find me on Instagram under Neo-Feminine Astrology. You can also find me if you want to find out more about that eclipse episode on Neo-Feminine TV or other Neo-Feminine TV episodes that I've done. You can find those at neofemininetv.fireside.com. And other things, I have the 2018 Moon Journal that I wrote. I have that up available as a downloadable PDF on neofemininetv.fireside.fm. So if you want to find out more about that, if you want to follow the lunar cycles throughout the entire year, that's something that I've been getting a lot of So it came out in January. I've been getting a lot of requests lately for it, so I decided to put a link up to it because you can still download it via PDF, and it's still very useful to go throughout the entire year. So that's all for now. Sending you lots of love and wishing you a fabulous week, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.